Dear Earthmates, we are visiting Mr. Dev Sharma in Nepal. He is a poet, writer, academic. He focusing on American poetry and many other areas. He's an environmentalist. We are new friends. And hello, Dev Sharma. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to meet you with a persons working in several fronts of humanitarian and literary capacities. And I'm really thankful that he gave time for me and he wanted to hear my words. And I would love to share my ideas. I would love to share my experiences of writings, and I would love to share other experiences of personal life as well. It's so honored. I'm so honored to meet you, my dear friend
And I am
from
honored
Nepal.
also to meet you, dear friend. Uh, so, how did your love for literature begin?
It's a long history, but let me cut it short. When I was a simple child, my mother used to sing some chantings of Sanskrit, and I used to learn them, and I used to sing after my mother, and that really gave me some insights into my let's say literary writings, and I followed some of these let's say chantings, even though I did not understand most of the words and most of the meanings, but it cultivated a sense of literary taste in my mind. And I followed certain let's say literary styles, and I also worked on it this way. I came into poetry. First, I came into small poetry, just like some kind of songs. Later on, I started to write longer poems. But it was all my cultivation of my mother who gave me this particular impetus in my mind.
For me too, my mother singing songs and telling stories.
Oh, we come from the same kind of, let's say, family backgrounds. Yes,
Yes,
my mother was a good chanter. She
yes.
used to sing just like some Sanskrit chantings, just like Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Saranam Braja Am Tva Sarva Papebhyo Muksesyami Masucha. These types of chantings, they come from Sanskrit, and they have a deep and let's say very profound sense of religious ideas. It talks about God, it talks about humanity, it talks about values of human life, something like that.
Wonderful, wonderful. And then, when did you start writing, or poems, stories?
Uh, I started to write when my let's say exams of a bachelor degree was over. I had some free times, and I spent my times lonely. I mean, I went to the woods, I went to certain secluded places, I spent times in high hills and mountains, and I wonder to see the beautiful places, the trees, the birds, the beautiful Himalayas over. And I sometimes sense that these natural, let's say, beauties were just talking, just like birds are talking to the beautiful trees, and the beautiful trees are talking to the wind, something like that I sense. And that really cultivated most of my energy to poetry. And most of my poems in those times were based on natural instinct. I mean, how nature gives us some shape into a universal kind of, let's say, philosophy, something like that. And then after I started to write about human beings, the society, the turbulent problems that humanity is facing in the modern times, things like that.
Wonderful. And your interest in American poetry, in English literature, in literature in English, let's say. Uh, in general. How did that develop? And what do you think about uh, who are some of your favorite poets in Nepal, in other countries, in American literature, etc.?
Oh, yes. Very wonderful questions. In our country, I usually started to write in my Nepali language, my native language. And in those times, and still now, there are great poets like Lakshmi Prasad Devkota, Leknath Paudel, Bhanubhakta Acharya, and so many. These poets had typical styles. It is called the traditional styles, and in those poems there were certain rhythmic and rhymic patterns, and all these poems were based on some kind of songs, and they are profound songs about nature, about humanity, about love, human sacrifice, and so many other things. When I went to university, in those times, there were some options for the students. And one option was to go for a non literary kind of, let's say, text, just like students would go to political science, mathematics, and something like that. But I opted major English. Major English means we had to study certain poetry or drama or certain sections. And in those times there were two kind of, let's say, selections, one poetry and other drama, and I started to enter into the sections of poetry, and this way in my intermediate and bachelor's degree I chose poetry, and this way I carried on this particular kind of, let's say, passions. And in my master's degree I chose poetry because poetry was one of the fundamental subjects in those times. And this way, I went into poetry. And when I specialized poetry in my, let's say, master's levels, I made certain, let's say, American poets. Some of them were my, let's say, friends, means they were Peace Corps coming to Nepal, and I met them, and they provided certain books about poetry, right? And then after, I also read some other, let's say, collections of poems by distinct American poets, just like, uh, let's say, uh, I recall them just like Wallace Stevenson's, Louis Glock, right? And Rita Dobb, let's say Sylvia Plath, and so
Class.
many, right? So I took interest gradually, and I fell into that particular kind of realm of poetry, and I enjoyed American poetry a lot. This
Wonderful.
way I developed this particular passion.
Wonderful. You're using your phone right now? Phone. Will you please move the phone a little bit this way so that, yes, now it is better. Yes, thank you.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Uh, Before we started recording, you mentioned this color here, and what is it? Is it a special day
Oh, it's
in?
a called offerings, right? There is a celebration in my family today, and we usually offer certain tika. It is called tika and prasad. Only elders give offers to their juniors. So I met my elders, and they offered me this particular tika, and it's a symbol of one celebration in the family.
A celebration, a symbol of
Yeah.
celebration in the family.
Yes, it's anniversary celebrations.
Oh, wonderful. And
Mm.
uh, uh, I have Yubanath Lamsal, as I mentioned, a good friend in Nepal, former ambassador, and he's an environmentalist columnist. And my friends, American friends, Mr. and Mrs. Kotapish, they still visit Nepal. Uh, uh, they are great friends of Nepal. I've never been to Nepal yet. I know from Kingdom, a republic came out. And and another thing is that the population is nearly 30 million, right? 28 million.
Yeah, 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 exactly, exactly.
And how about different religions? What religions are there? Hinduism, Buddhism, I don't know, Christianity,
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Uh, yes, Nepal is a secular country now.
Very good.
Previously, it was a Hindu country, right? Now it has been secular country since the Maestro took into power, right? Nepal became secular country, and the constitution was drafted in 2072. It means to 2008, and there are new dimensions of political, let's say, a shift, right? In the previous times, we had monarchy, and now we have, let's say, Republican kind of, let's say, government, and each and every religions is given equal opportunity to practice, and now we have secular kind of, let's say, government systems, and no religion is preferred by the state. Despite this fact, according to the demographic features, Hinduistic religions is dominating, because almost, let's say, 70% to 80% people belong to Hindu religions, and the rest of 5 to 7% belong to Buddhist, and Christianity is so low, and let's say Muslim is also, yes, low, but things are upgrading in the modern times, because Nepali government and the Nepali peoples respect each religion equally, and there is a harmonious relationship among all the cultures, all the religions, and all the rituals that people undergo. So it has been fantastic times for the peoples, though Nepal has to progress in terms of development, but in terms of politicals and the other kind of, let's say, harmonious situations, we are really doing wonderful things, and we equally respect all the peoples, all the persons, yes, belonging to different kind of religions.
Very good. I I think a secular republic is very important. I
Yeah,
hope
yeah, of
I
course,
hope
of course.
I hope soon the whole world will consist of secular republics, and there will be a world federation of secular republics,
Yeah,
democratic,
yes,
etc.
yes,
Um, because without secularity, uh, no democracy is possible, no human rights is possible.
exactly, exactly.
We see
Yes, democracy and secularisms are interdependent,
exactly.
right? The real spirit of democracy relies on the secular views of the people.
Yes,
Democracy doesn't only means the kind of, let's say, electoral voting. It's not just a periodical elections that people participate. What actually democratic practices means is we have to give equal sharing to each religions, equal sharing to each political practices, equal sharing to all cultures, all, let's say, social dimensions of the people, social and cultural feelings of the people. Each person has to share in the government, not only in terms of physical, let's say, point of view, but in emotional and psychological point of view. And this is really the spirit of democracy, right?
yes,
Without this, democracy does not sustain longer, though it might be just a kind of, let's say, political practice. But if we do not give, if we do not give chance to flourish on all, yes, people surround the society, then democracy might be just in name. It
e-
might not be in the practice.
exactly.
I think that way.
I agree with you. And of course, atheism should also be respected. I'm an atheist, and
Yeah,
I call myself a naturalist. I prefer naturalist, a better term. Uh, and and nobody should force another person in any way. Scientific thinking, arts, these are important and for human progress, and only under secular and democratic conditions these can develop. Um, okay, and uh, Is there a selection of Nepalese poetry in English, I wonder? I mean, if there is not, would you kindly prepare an anthology of Nepalese poetry in English?
Oh, yes. Uh, Nepali poetry has not gone into market so massively, though there are academic institute and a literary institute working in this particular field, but even good poetry has not got the international market, I mean international readerships. So there are efforts going on from different, let's say, sectors. One of the fundamental sectors of this particular, let's say, work is the Royal Academy, means Nepali Academy. Usually, previously it was called the Royal Academy, but now it has been, let's say, a public academy, right? Nepali Academy, and it gives, let's say, some, it organizes certain seminars and other activities for the peoples, and it invites scholars around the globe, and some activities, some exchange between Nepali literature and other literature, especially in South Asia, take place every year. But it is not insignificant. It is just a very, just in token, right? So Nepali government and the Nepali academia have to work together, to rather, let's say, spread the spirit of Nepali good poetry. And there are, of course, very good poets here. One of the good poets is Lakshmi Prasad Devkota. He has been, let's say, a towering figure. Some people call him just like William Wordsworth. And there are other important poets also, but they have not been, let's say, exposed into the international market because of translation problems, right? But efforts are being carried out in the modern times, and we possibly hope that within times there could be some good poetry coming into the international market.
Yes, and actually, an anthology of Nepali literature, uh, giving information about the history of the Nepali people and the language, giving some information about the language, and then because English is the global language now, of course, English would be practical, and then poetry, essays, short fiction, a few maybe dramatic works, uh, giving an idea because the population is also important. And nearly 30 million, that's a huge number, actually. There are many, um, yeah, I mean, Nep uh, and Nepal deserves more recognition, I think.
Yeah,
Uh,
of course.
the world is much too West oriented. Um, I was like that when I was younger, but I think I've been trying to focus more on Africa and Asia and Latin America. Um,
Mm.
uh, and uh, yeah, and maybe we can encourage together the Nepalese literary anthology, etc. And
Yes.
yes,
Yes, it would be really a great kind of things. And if you are interested, I can involve some of my poet friends who write in Nepali, and I could translate their poems into English, and we can create a kind of, let's say, anthology, and you can write some of your Turkish poems into English, and we can publish together in certain websites or certain online kind of, let's say, portal. That would be really wonderful. So at least the people would understand about. Yes, in the modern times, you are right to say that most of the literary writing has been westernized, right? We understand literature from the perspective of Western people, right? But it is said that 21st century is not the West century, it is the East century. So there should be some focus in the eastern part of the world, just like Asia, Africa, the non-developed, right, society. So we
Exactly.
have to also push, right? We have to also push literary writings and other academic efforts to bring our cultures, to bring our poetic literatures into the world, so that many other peoples would understand about our literary writings, our literary heritage, our literary kind of, let's say, classicals and the modern concepts of literary writings that have taken place, right? So it would be really a great kind of, let's say, efforts on part, and we can discuss about this. Yes, and I could find some of my poet friends, especially who write in, let's say, Nepali language, and I could translate their poems, and I could send these poems to you, and you would understand these poems into our, let's say, national language. Then after, how they, yes, how they are translated into English, and we can put side by side Nepali language and the English language.
Yes.
So how they seem to be in the scriptures and other kind of, let's say, ways.
And those poems could be spoken and recorded so people
Yeah.
can hear the language
Yes.
in the originals. Actually,
Yes. Yes.
so we could, for example, who are some of the important poets, essayists, short fiction writers, playwrights, etc., uh, in Nepal today? So this is a question. And then starting from contemporary, for example, saying Nepal today, uh, giving a picture of the society, etc., an introduction to Nepalese society and culture, and uh, and then in other countries, our friends, Earthmates, could do similar things. And thanks to internet on PDF, it is easy using colorful pictures. We can uh, just prepare those and uh, upload it, and we can learn from one another.
Sure, that would be wonderful. My suggestions to you is that we could develop some samples, right? I could select some of the representative piece of poems from Nepal, and I could translate them, and I could read out one or two poems so that we record them and we can place on that particular portal, and we can disseminate these into different other sources of information, especially online, right? It would be
Yes,
wonderful, right,
yes,
to
and
share among many other friends.
good. And we
Okay.
now I remember this Poetic Space Lab. We can thank you. You have joined, and we can also uh, feed this platform. This could be one of the activities of the platform, and in many languages we could do that. Original language and the world language, English. Uh, it's a fact, and we can have a more colorful world thanks to that. Wonderful. And uh, what are your projects now? What are you working on?
Yes. Recently, I'm working on my children's stories. I have been asked to write children's stories for one particular publishers, American publishers. So I'm working on it, and I have another adult stories which is coming onto shape. And then after, I have some, let's say, manuals for my students, right? I'm working on three books in recent times. They have been, let's say, schedules for publications. right? I'm working on it. After that, I would work on my literary kind of, let's say, writings. I have some plans to write typical kind of poems, especially in the modern test, right? Modern experimental test, right? So, but after these three projects are over, I think to work on them. Right now, I'm on three projects. One, children's stories, one manual for my students, and one adult stories. And they are now in shape, and I could send these manuscripts to my publisher as soon as they get into shape.
Wonderful. And would you please send me your CV or bio note so that we can put it in the presentation, written presentation part of this interview on YouTube? Okay?
Okay, I could send it soon after our interview is over, right? I
Wonderful.
could send
Thank you.
information.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. And
thank
what would you recommend or suggest to young Earthmates in the world? What would you like
you.
to recommend to young people, young Earthmates in the world?
Oh, so I would recommend the young peoples, first of all, to understand about the universal society, right? I don't just think that until a young person understand about universal society, I mean, he should understand about diverse cultures, diverse universal sentiments across the globe. Thereafter, I would suggest these young peoples to work on their personal, let's say, calibers, to work on any kind of, let's say, literary spirit they want to go, but to understand the real sentiment of the humanity. I don't think literature is just for personal gratifications. I think that literature should work for the better universal kind of, let's say, connection. It is the bone. It has to connect one culture to another, one sentiment to another, one society to another. So first of all, I would suggest all young people to understand about universal feelings, universal understanding of humanity, love, and the compassions. Then after, connect these feelings into broader sense of literature. So this would be my suggestion to the young peoples in the modern time.
Great. Thank you so much. And uh, the Earth Civilization network is in harmony with everything you're saying, and your contributions in that field uh, has been wonderful. I mean, there are millions of people who who share these ideas, and if we can collaborate better, if we can work together better, the world can become better. Yes,
Okay.
and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank
And
you so much for this interview. I really feel honored to
me too.
share my ideas, to share about Nepal, to share about my literary writing, my career, and so many things. What is what I let's say want to share with you is so wonderful, and I would love to have interview with you in my forthcoming days as well.
Oh, thank you. And how
Thank
do
you
your
very much.
friends call you? Do they say Bam or Dev or Sharma? What do they say? What do your friends call you when they say what?
Okay.
What do they
Okay.
say? What do they say?
Okay. Have a nice time.
No, no, no. Excuse me. Do your friends call you Bam or Dev or Sharma? What do they call you? Or do they call you Bam Dev? What do they call you? Your name?
Yes. Dev Sharma.
Your friends, what do they say to you? Do, when do they say, for example, hello? Do they say hello, Bam? Or do they say hello, Bam, Dev?
Yeah, yeah,
What do
yeah.
they say?
You can say hello, Bam. No worry.
No, but
No
what do
worry.
your friends say usually in Nepal? What do they say?
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so
Okay.
much. My regards to your
Thank you
family, my
so
best
much.
wishes. We are
Nice
together.
time.
We are together. Thank you.
Okay. Sure.
Sure.
Sure. Nice. Nice.
Nice. Thank you.